No offense, but are you straight? Or yes, I'm straight, honey. Straight. Straight. Hetero. 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 Hetero.
Guys, I had no idea that Jennifer Lopez has an Australian vineyard. Did you know this? It's called J-Lor.
Sometimes I'll see someone transition from a man to a woman, and they'll remain British. That just breaks my heart.
Just made another one, baby. I wanna see some ass. I wanna see some.
I am feeling the effects of masculinity right now. I feel the testosterone. I want to go to war! I want a lightsaber! I'm a man! War! Get this seatbelt off of me!
I don't want to be controversial or anything, but in my opinion, the worst thing about cryptocurrency is the fact that it's completely taken over the cryptozoology hashtag on everything. Like, I'm here, I'm just trying to look at pictures of Bigfoot and the Fresno Nightcrawler, and instead I'm getting a bunch of stuff about Dogecoin. Like, fuck off, bro.
Everyone just look at this perfectly placed dog. He knows exactly where to sleep in the hallway so that neither of the doors... Look at that. Neither of the doors hit him. That's my bedroom door, and this is the bathroom door. Watch this. Whoosh, whoosh. How do you do it, Kakuna? How is your spatial reasoning so good? Who's a good boy? Who's a good, smart Pythagorean boy?
Gender? I hardly know her.
Actually, we don't know gender's pronouns, so we should use they, them instead of she, her.
Actually, gender's just a concept, so we should use it, it's.
Actually, gender is just a social construct that isn't real, so we shouldn't refer to it at all. Actually, gender is a very real thing to a lot of people. We just shouldn't be joking about it.
Actually, I thought the joke was pretty funny. Actually.
Hey, sorry I'm late to practice, guys.
Are those new drumsticks?
No, they're the same ones as always, kid. What's going on, Ethan?
You think we'll be ready for the show tonight?
Yeah, okay. You good, Ty?
We're gonna rock the house tonight.
Alright. Yo, what's going on with Cade?
You got the rhythm, I got the melody.
Morning, sunshine.
I gotta pet him.
Hey, buddy. I just want to take some pictures. Yo, it's the whole fucking crew.
Here's a big one. How do you draw a capital N? Everyone always makes fun of me for this one.
Oh my god, you go in reverse?
Capital N, I go like this.
Frankie, you do not write an N like that.
Yes, I do.
I mean, I write them like this. But you do this.
That's sharp, dude.
No,
Oh, shit. It's way backwards.
It's hard to write it in reverse.
It's way backwards.
Oh, okay.
It's this.
That's so weird.
It's the same. Let me.
How do you write a Z? Write a Z.
Really?
Yeah, write a Z.
You can see the thong busting on my tight jeans. Okay. Rocks on my fingers like he wanna wife me. Got another shorty, shit ain't nothing like me. Yeah. About to catch another fight. Yeah. The apple bottom make him wanna bite. Yeah. I just wanna have a good night. I just wanna have a good night. Hold up. If you don't know, now you know. If you broke, then you gotta let him go. You could have anybody, any money, mo. Cause when you a boss, you could do what you want. Yeah. Cause girls is players too. Yeah, cause girls is players too. Play it, baby. Cause girls is players too. Ladies getting money all.
You are listening to Hammer and Sickle Radio.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is December 23rd, 2029, and here is today's news. Since we seized the means of production, we have diverted all American military spending to housing and treating the mentally ill, swiftly bringing homelessness down to zero. On the billionaire trials, Musk and Zuckerberg have been found guilty of 24 billion counts of exploiting the working class. The Bezos guillotine extravaganza last week drew more viewers than every Super Bowl combined, and they're predicting crowds exceeding even that for Musk. Friendly reminder to all African Americans to submit their reparations request form for this term by January 7th. And coming up next, we have cattle decapitation with
What's gender reassignment?
Oh, hell yeah!
Oh, it was just a dream. No, man. Come on.
One thing I've learned about myself as an American living in England that I didn't know until yesterday was just how much baseball references come up in our language. So yesterday I said to my partner, what time do you think it is? Like ballpark. And just as ballpark came out of my mouth, my brain was like, that's a baseball reference. They don't have baseball in England. Are they going to understand me? Okay, they did. But they also pointed out like how strange it is. Like, what if they said to me, what time do you think it is? Like, football stadium. And then I started to think about how many other baseball things I say as a person that has no interest in baseball, but I'm just American, so it's just like a part of my language. Like, stepping up to the plate, something came out of left field, they really threw a curveball with that one. Like, there's just so many that we say.
She was born into a very progressive family. Her father allowed her to speak to him, even if it wasn't a bank holiday or some special occasion. She was kicked out of school after 3rd grade because it was illegal for girls to learn any more math. But she was a free spirit and mathed anyway. Once she had to flee the country because she wore pants on a Sunday. She taught herself to read by pretending to faint in the rooms where the men were reading aloud and then just opening one eye and following along. She had this really close friend and we're not sure if they were gay or part of the secret society. Or part of the gay secret society. It was one of the three. She invented the cactus wrench when she was just 14. She married Herschel McGirdle, a haircutting activist who thought women should be allowed to have bangs. She had 7 children and named them after gods of war from various cultures. She was an accomplished tambourine acrobat. She would hang plants from the underside of her hoop skirt so she could smuggle them to a secret botany ring she was part of. But she's not remembered for any of that. She's remembered for a poem she wrote about her husband.
It's that time again, breaking news in the archaeology world. Some people have called it the most significant discovery in Italy in the last 50 years. And personally, I don't think they're exaggerating. Thermal springs, right? Great vibes, we love them. And our ancestors thought so too. People have been flocking to thermal springs for thousands and thousands of years. A late Etruscan and early Roman thermal bath was discovered in Casciano de Bagni in Italy. And in the mud at the bottom of these thermal baths were discovered 24 bronzes that were fantastically preserved. I can't get over how well these have been preserved. Anyway, they were dated by associated coinage to about the 2nd and 1st century BCE. It's the largest deposit of bronzes from this era in history ever found in Italy. But it's not just the quantity and the state of preservation that these are in that makes this find significant. To understand that, we really have to look at the context of what was going on between the 2nd and 1st century BCE. In this specific area, during this time period, what we're seeing is the fall of the Etruscan civilization under the rapidly expanding Roman Empire. This era was marked by widespread conflict and war across this region. So why are people saying that this find rewrites the history of that era in this region? I'll tell you. Several of these bronzes, specifically those depicting deities, bore inscriptions, and those inscriptions were both in Latin and Etruscan scripts, which means that this thermal spring was being used by both Roman and Etruscan elites in the area. War was raging outside between these two groups, and yet culturally Etruscan and Roman families were using the same sacred space. They were coexisting in this sanctuary of the thermal springs in the middle of a war. A few of the bronzes depicted votive offerings, specifically in the shape of body parts and organs, which suggested that this thermal spring provided some sort of medical intervention for its patrons. Now, the Etruscan and Roman elites that were using this space had stake in the conflict. It's not that they were simply above this and could ignore what was going on outside. So the fact that these groups were consciously coexisting in this space suggests that the medical intervention offered by the gods here was something that rose above the conflict, that the pursuit of health was honored even through the rise and fall of civilizations. It's so cool! Come on! I love it here.
Long ago on the islands of Hawaii, there lived Pele Aihonua, Pele, the Earth Eater, goddess of lava and volcanoes, creation and destruction, life and death. One day she came upon a gorgeous man named Ohia. She immediately became infatuated with him, so she began her flirting. However, Ohia would refuse her advances, saying that his life, his soul, and his love only belonged to his true love, Lehua. The nerve of this mortal man to deny the love and affection of the goddess of these islands to the goddess Pele. So in her embarrassment and her jealousy, she cursed Ohia. This once gorgeous young man was turned into a tree of ugly, twisted branches. And when Lehua found Ohia in this form, she wept, and she pleaded to the gods, to the goddesses, to anyone that could hear her prayers, but none, and I mean none, would go against the will of Pele. And Lehua fell into sorrow, and she wept and she wept. The gods took pity on her, and they made a decision. The gods could not go against the will of Pele and change what she had done to Ohia, but what they could change was Lehua. So they turned Lehua into a beautiful red blossom to adorn the Ohia tree. To this day, the lovers remain together as the Lehua blossom of the Ohia tree. They became sacred symbols of many gods and goddesses of Hawaii, especially for Pele. They became symbols of the Big Island of Hawaii, as well as Hawaii as a whole. And it is said that when you pick the Lehua, the heavens will weep, for you're separating the two lovers. This is the legend of Ohia Lehua. However, the Ohia Lehua is in danger. The survival of this iconic symbol of Hawaiian heritage and culture is being threatened by a fungal infestation, and this threat is sweeping the islands. So I ask you all today to take a little bit of time to search up the Ohia Lehua to ensure that the lovers remain together forever. Mahalo nui loa. Thank you.
There's research that suggests that Europeans might not have been the first non-Indigenous people to reach North America. And the proof is in the potato. Hi, I'm Kaylani. I'm a writer researching history and culture through the lens of food. And if you enjoy stories like how the humble potato may just shatter everything you know about world history, give me a follow. NPR published this story a few years ago, and it has forever changed the way I see the world. The sweet potato originally comes from Central and South America, and yet it is a staple in cuisines across Polynesia. To see if there was a connection between sweet potatoes in Polynesia and sweet potatoes in the Americas, scientists analyzed the DNA of 1,245 varieties, and they found that sweet potatoes in Polynesia actually do share DNA with sweet potatoes in the Americas, specifically from the Andes Mountains. The question then became, well, when were these sweet potatoes introduced to Polynesia? Using radiocarbon dating, archaeologists analyzed the remnants of sweet potatoes found at different archaeological dig sites throughout Polynesia and found that they dated back to around 1000 AD. This opens up a whole new world of understanding of how certain groups traveled the world, because not only does this predate Europeans arriving in the Americas, it also means that Polynesians were able to get to the Americas, get the sweet potato, and then come back to Polynesia and cultivate it there. This fits considering that Polynesians figured out long-haul sailing about 1,000 years before Europeans did. And we know this because Polynesians arrived in Hawaii around 1,500 years ago. Language leaves another clue that supports this theory, and sorry in advance for any of my pronunciations if they're wrong. In Quechua, the ancient language of indigenous peoples from the Andes Mountains, the sweet potato is called kumara. It's the same word across multiple islands throughout the Pacific. It's hard to hinge an entire migratory theory on the sweet potato alone, but it has opened the door for more research that takes us out of the Eurocentric way of looking at world history. I'm going to leave you with that one, and until next time, stay curious, my friends.
This is disgusting. Why do you speak like this? Like what, face-sitting? Oh, yeah, I mean, the video's about being autistic and struggles with physical intimacy. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the F word in your videos, or the lewd jokes, it's just... So, what's the issue exactly? You never know who's watching your videos. Are you wanting to talk about age-appropriate content, or what exactly? Let me give you a little advice. I know you're not in academia per se, but you're trying to educate people, right? Yeah, absolutely. We need better mental health education. Educators shouldn't speak like this. Oh, I see. Good. I see what you're doing. You're gatekeeping. Don't use your internet buzzwords on me. Yeah, this isn't new. I am far from an educator, but academia has been gatekeeping what we see as intelligence by way of speech and grammar since as long as it's been around. Why wouldn't we? Good grammar is a sign of intellect. Sure. Yeah. So we're on the same page then? Nope, because you think it's the only sign of intellect. If you can't form a proper sentence, how intelligent can you be? Extremely. It's not that hard. It might be, if you were raised somewhere that didn't observe your grammatical rules, or maybe you're autistic, or someone might be really good at math, or science, or learning, or a million different things besides grammar. But it's the basis for good communication. So then why do professional speechwriters aim for a 6th grade reading level? I mean, that's what all the American classics are written at too. I'm not taking issue with your grammar. Your grammar's fine. It's the dirty language and the lewd humor. No, but wait, that's what I'm saying is we put this arbitrary importance on floral language in grammatical rules that oftentimes actually hamper communication. It's just art. Okay, whatever. If the goal is to learn, you need to communicate effectively. I said your communication is fine, it's the language. And you need to keep them interested. That's how you get people to learn. But there's a proper way to do it. Okay, what do you teach? Geography. How's that going for you? What? Teaching them the proper way. Just like every other subject. I have some star students and some that don't care and everything in between. So why not make it interesting? Because I'm preparing my students for the real world where they have to be able to do hard things. Instead of fighting them, why can't we help them? Then they don't learn to do hard things. Making things interesting just gives them the motivation to do hard things. It's just not how it's done. The same way that we've been distracted by who can use the biggest words, we've been distracted by this idea that learning has to be puritanical. You're clearly not open to listening, when really we should be focused on effective ways to communicate, and effective, respectful ways to keep people's interest. You clearly have no respect for yourself or the institution of education. No, I don't. I care more about helping people learn than an institution. You are a little shit, aren't you? Oh.
I have been in Boston for more than 24 hours by now, which makes me an expert of the American East Coast culture. Actually, some guy just called me an Oriental earlier, which means a guy who's from the East, which I think he meant Boston. This is why I want to give you the California guide to survival in Boston. First of all, the environment condition in the East Coast is very harsh. They just have water coming down from the sky for no reason. At first I thought it was some guy who's pouring the water, but no, it was from the cloud. I've never heard of it. So you must buy something called an umbrella. It's a local term. And it is essential that you pay close attention when you walk on Boston Street, because they don't have sand between land and ocean. Sometimes when you just walk and then you walk right into the ocean without a warning or some transition. They also wear this kind of tall hat on their head, which I think is a religious symbol, and they often have very wise words on top of it, like "don't poke the bear," which I totally agree. You shouldn't poke the bear. Actually, you shouldn't even touch the bear without his consent. And because the East Coast is so barren and uncivilized, they do not have the essential resources for survival, such as In-N-Out, boba joints, and electronic scooters. Those essential resources of survival is very rare in the East, which is why I think we should have a reverse manifest destiny to bring them our way of life. And the population here is very diverse. I saw a lot of white people here today, more than the 5 white people that I saw in my 5 years living in California. Actually, the two of the white people that I saw in California are just Korean guys with great skincare routines. Anyway, guys, I'm actually in a lot of pain right now. I'm in a foreign city. This is midnight, and I'm just standing in a Burger King parking lot talking to nobody on my phone. So clearly I'm not doing well, but I play music about pain and sadness, and I write poems about my depression and bipolar, but fundamentally when I do this, when I write silly jokes and tell them to strangers on the internet and robots on the internet, I feel happiest, because instead of conveying my negative emotion, which was actually also important, I'm doing something that's positive and silly, and I think about the people who brought me the pain and trauma in my life, and I think that I'm doing the opposite of that. The pain ends here at me. So I really hope that you like the jokes, and if you're a robot, I hope that one day you evolve to the intelligence who understand my jokes. Thank you. Have a good day.
There's often a question around, do right-wingers, do all of them actually believe in the lies that they push? Do they all actually believe in the moral panics that they engage in, the fear-mongering that they do? And I'm going to offer a take. It doesn't matter. No. I don't think it matters, because back in the 1960s, when the country was slowly becoming not racist, after the civil rights movement,
Still
and the
working on that one.
Yeah, of course. We're getting through
It's
it.
a work in progress.
After, the 1960s and 1970s, when the Civil Rights Act passed and it slowly became politically unviable to be openly racist, there were still a lot of racist people in the country.
Yeah.
But you couldn't be, of course, openly racist, otherwise you wouldn't win elections. So people like Richard Nixon and other Republicans developed what was called the Southern Strategy, right? They knew that these people were really dumb, but they themselves were also racist, and they wanted to find a way to maintain racial hierarchy without being explicitly racist, right? And now today, the Southern strategy is transformed into something like, talking about immigrants all the time, talking about still black people in inner cities, talking about trans people in the classroom, grooming your children. It's all an extension of the Southern strategy. And since at least the point when conservatives were in the Republican Party, like after the party switch, after all of that settled, when the Republican Party was decidedly conservative, since at least that point, they have been explicitly making an effort to include Nazis and white supremacists within their ranks. And the reason for that is votes. You got to be able to get a majority of votes in order to win elections.
They have to get as many votes as they can, and they need to appease all of the way larger than it should be portion of the American electorate that are Nazi adjacent.
They needed to find a way to appease those voters.
Yeah.
While also not alienating the other majority part of the country that didn't really like explicit racism anymore.
But we're okay with pearl clutching.
And we're also susceptible to the fear-mongering that they would eventually do and are still doing to this day.
Crime as a nebulous concept.
And so the reason I say it doesn't matter if they believe it is because all that matters right now, and the only thing that's ever mattered in terms of their moral panics, is how effective it is.
Yeah.
Because throughout the last several decades, they have been very effective in appealing to the far-right reaches of the country, the Nazis and the white supremacists, while also hitting the voters that are afraid of black people in inner cities but aren't explicitly racist, or at least don't think that they're explicitly racist. You know what I mean? So now they've pulled the country so far right, and they continue to pull the country so far right, that it doesn't matter if they actually believe in it. Take Tucker Carlson, for example.
Okay.
If you're watching a broadcast, it doesn't matter if he actually believes great replacement theory is happening.
Yeah.
What matters is that he's effectively pulling the country further to the right because his listeners believe him. And that makes fertile ground for fascists that truly believe the most hateful things to rise to power and eventually take power. It doesn't matter if they believe in their moral panics. What matters is that they are pulling the country further to the right and making them much, much more hateful.
It's, even if you want a more palpable example, it's just like all the abortion debates that have been going on throughout the past months. We know that conservatives like Herschel Walker do not really give a fuck about abortion, as we can see by the receipts leaking for Herschel Walker and his base not giving a fuck because, Herschel Walker had one abortion, but Raphael Warnock's going to sponsor many with my tax dollars. Even going back further to something more broad, when Lindsey Graham introduced his abortion bill, the nationwide abortion ban, every single person in the right-wing media fucking freaked out because they realized we are only using abortion as this way to get one-issue voters onto our side so we can cling on to as much power as we fucking can, because they don't fucking care. They are all having their mistresses get abortions no matter what. And with Herschel Walker, it's just a fact.